Hi everyone, Michelle Grimalia here, the President and CEO of Woodland Pond. Today is Monday, November 2nd, 2020, the day before Election Day, and this is my daily COVID on campus update for you. I don't think it'll be particularly long today because not a lot has changed, as you'll hear. So to start, the best news, of course, is all of the residents on every unit of campus remain asymptomatic at this time. We have received, we retested all of the health center residents towards the end of last week. This was a second round of retesting, and all of those results came in today or over the weekend. And all of those results are negative, with the exception of the resident that had tested positive again in the skilled nursing unit. The protocol was not to retest her yet, so she was not included in the end of the week sample for retesting. But all of the rest of the health center residents in our memory care unit, in assisted living, and in skilled nursing have now been retested twice and tested negative. So that's fantastic news, combined especially with the asymptomatic, having no symptoms on campus. We have no reports of symptoms in any independent living residents at this time, and no staff that are presenting with symptoms. We are continuing to test staff at a minimum once per week. Most of our staff last week were tested more than that. I know depending on levels of exposure, we did identify a number of people that we thought needed to be tested twice. So there has been some question about pending test results. And I just want to remind everyone that since May, the state has had a mandate that we are testing all of our staff every week. And we do that testing 6 days a week here on site. So we always have test results pending. That's not uncommon. It does take, between 1 and 2 days typically to get those test results back. So it's exceedingly common that we have test results pending. And until or unless we had, a lab on site, which we don't have the capability to do, or do get access to wide scale rapid testing, there will always be pending tests because we're testing 250 people at least once a week, 6 days a week. We are the next 3 days in independent living, so Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, when you get a phone call from our staff member that is making outreach phone calls, and I believe it's scheduled to be Steve Mock all week. Steve will be asking you some more questions about how you are feeling. Do you have any symptoms of illness? Have you been taking your temperature? We are recommending that you take it twice per day to ensure that you're not, showing signs of a fever. The reason that Steve is going to be asking more of those types of questions the next 3 days, so again, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, is because we are looking at, the possibility of being able to resume certain limited independent living activities towards the latter part of this week. But in order to do so, we need to get the remainder of the independent living resident tests that were taken on Friday. We need to get those results back. We need to ensure that there aren't residents that are reporting any kinds of symptoms of illness for at least the next 3 days. And again, we don't have any reports of that. And anyone that does have any concerns has been really good about, asking a question, or my stomach hurts, should I be concerned? Those kinds of things. So Steve is going to be actually actively asking those questions to try to draw that information out and provide that to our management team as we make decisions about the timing of potential independent living resumption of activity. Before moving on to that topic in a little bit more depth, I just want to remind any resident that is planning on going to in-person voting tomorrow to please call concierge and let them know. We want to have a list of all of the folks that have gone to vote in person. And we do actually have the ability to, if you can let us know when you're planning on going, we can notify the polling place, and there may be an opportunity for you to scoot to the front of the line if it's long. So if you are planning on doing in-person voting, obviously, please, the most important thing is we're still well within the symptom development window for the original onset of potential COVID on campus. That will be still in effect until Wednesday of this week. So you should see yourself as potentially being a spreader. That's how I've been looking at myself since this happened. And so you should use, as much caution as you possibly can manage. I would strongly recommend both a mask, surgical mask, and a face shield if you have one, as well as gloves, and using all the proper protocols, and certainly, keeping the 6 feet distance that you need when you're at the polling place. Okay, so before I move into independent living, I just want to mention regarding the health center and what our timelines are looking like in resuming normal activity or COVID normal activity in assisted living and skilled nursing. That's priority number one today, is figuring out sort of what that timeline is going to look like. And as I mentioned last week, each of those three, the assisted living, which comprises assisted living and the memory care unit, are regulated one way with certain rules and regulations. And then the skilled nursing unit is actually regulated differently. Because of the way that the illness progression came to be and the way that the test positives were, we may be able to split the two, assisted living and Garden View in one sort of timeline and mindset, and then skilled nursing separately. We're looking at that this week. We're going to be working with, all of the available guidance to determine when we think that we can first and foremost lift the droplet precautions right now, which is, that we have to gown up and completely change all of the appropriate PPE on every encounter into a resident room, and then maybe potentially allowing some limited resident activity on a safe basis. And then separately looking at skilled nursing and that timing. We also are going to be looking at when we think we might reasonably be able to resume with physical therapy activities, both on an inpatient basis and on an outpatient basis. So, we're close to the end of the 14-day window now that there were symptoms on campus, but we did have a positive COVID retest last week. So we're working through those dates right now, and I don't want to overcommit on anything. There won't be any changes this week, that we know for sure. But just as soon as we can, at some point next week, fingers crossed, we should be able to, at least for, different parts of the health center, where we continue to have, negative tested staff and residents. Hopefully those parts of the health center, hopefully we can remove those droplet precautions sooner than later. But again, I don't want to commit to anything just yet. We are, as I said, this is the top order of business for this today and for this week. In terms of independent living, we are looking at the same thing. The timelines for independent living might be able to be a little bit more accelerated in terms of resuming certain activities than in the health center, because we have not had, knock on wood, any positive cases in a staff member or in a resident in independent living. So the precautions that we have in place right now was to kind of get us through that 14-day window of potential exposure and symptom development, which will end on Wednesday of this week. So we're hoping to be able to resume limited independent living activities potentially as early as the end of this week. And what that's going to look like, it's going to be somewhat of a return to where we were prior to this semi-shutdown, but with real precautions. So we're going to do this with baby steps whenever we decide that it's time. It will be done with baby steps. And sorry, my phone's ringing. And then we'll, do an initial opening for, let's say, a week to 10 days, and then we'll expand that, and then we'll expand it further. And as you know, it was our intention that in November, we were actually going to be able to potentially really open up a number of the activities and amenities again, but we obviously things got derailed. So we are going to be discussing all of that is what my team is going to be focusing on this week. I think that is it for today. Just one final thing. There has been some question again, and I'm getting sort of a good amount of pressure put on me and my team is as well, to really come to a firm conclusion on why the 12 tests initially came back positive, and then now, since only one has reconfirmed positive, I am in no way comfortable drawing that conclusion. And I just want to reiterate that we don't have enough available information to determine if there was a problem with the test, or if these are truly people that have COVID, that have no symptoms, or, maybe we caught it on the tail end. I don't know. All we know is that we had 12 positive tests. We had no residents with any symptoms. We have a single positive retest, also with no symptoms. And that is as much as we are comfortable concluding, just knowing what the facts are. So for those that are very curious about what our conclusion is this is the situation that we have on campus. We're treating this as if it's an active and true risk, and it wouldn't matter to us at this point if they were false positives or not, because we're treating it as if it's the real thing. That's the only safe and appropriate thing to do. So I just wanted to reiterate that, because there has been some additional question that arose over the weekend. If anybody needs anything from me or from Woodland Pond, you know how to reach out and who to ask for. I will plan on doing this daily update tomorrow and Wednesday. So Tuesday and Wednesday of this week at 2 p.m. I will plan on doing that again, and then we'll play it by ear after that. It's going to depend on how the next couple of days go. If there's not a lot changing, there probably doesn't need to be an update, but it is nice to check in with everybody. So have a happy Monday. The sun looks like it's out, and maybe you should get out there and stretch those legs. Thanks. Bye.